it's either surrender or we'll probably get killed. I spoke to her a bit, and I was like saying to like, can you like wake Diane, like my fiance, like just wake her up and get her to call me so I can speak to her one last time. And I remember speaking to her and like just talking to her happily, like just trying to act like I wasn't like phased too much. And she was like super like quiet-ish. I could hear her crying, obviously. I was like telling her, like, don't worry, like I will come back to you, like I promise. When I was being beaten, I was still able to like speak to myself. It's like really hard to explain. I was like speaking to myself inside my head, and I was just like kept telling myself like it's going to end eventually. It's going to end. Like you've got to survive.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. This is the true and frightening combat story of Aiden Aslin, a British citizen fighting for the Ukrainian military who was taken as a POW and then beaten and stabbed by his Russian captors for over 5 months. Listeners will recall our first interview with Aiden from February 5th of this year, just weeks before the Russian invasion, where he predicted what would come after 2 deployments to the front lines in Ukraine and significant fighting in Syria. Aiden was fighting on the front lines in the Donbas region of Ukraine on February 24th, 2022, when Russia, completely unprovoked, invaded Ukraine. His unit fell back to the steel factory in Mariupol, where he was surrounded by Russian and Donetsk People's Republic, or DPR, basically Russia's foot soldiers and lackeys in Donetsk. Out of food and ammunition, Aiden's unit would eventually surrender to the Russian military, which promptly handed Aiden over to the DPR for regular beatings and violations of the Geneva Convention, which surprised nobody. In our interview, Aiden recounts the harrowing experience of being on the front lines when Russia invaded, how he survived captivity, and without any of the advanced training that people like myself received regularly while in service to survive and escape these conditions and to return with dignity. I'm sure you will be as amazed as I was at Aiden's spirit and strength that pulled him through this difficult time, and it will be a stark reminder for each of us that our day-to-day problems are not as hard as we might think when compared with what he endured. As you can imagine, I was elated to hear of Aiden's release in September and was nearly brought to tears after seeing his face again as we started this interview. Please enjoy this rare glimpse of hope and optimism from someone who survived a history-altering invasion and months in captivity as a modern-day POW as much as I did. Aiden, thank you so much for coming back to share this, what has to be just an incredible story with us again here.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be back on the show.
So, since the last time we talked, we published our first go round in February. Has anything big happened since then?
Not really. It's been like a pretty normal year, I finished my military service in October. Spent like the past year like on death row.
Yeah.
So
just a few things. Just a few things to get to. So, yeah, for those who don't know, obviously, Aiden was fighting in Ukraine, was captured by the Russians, and was released just in September, if I got the timeline right.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting as I was reviewing our first go-round. One of the quotes that really stuck with me in the first 5 minutes of this interview, you said, hey, and we had to accelerate when we did the interview because you had to get deployed to the front lines. And you said, the only slight concern is if Russia's not bluffing this time, what if they decide they're going to invade, take territory? It could end up disastrous for some of those units on the front lines. And I have to admit, I was thinking in my head, like, Russia would not do this. That would be outlandish, crazy. But you knew it. And I think you were saying you had even posted kind of like step by step what you thought was going to happen. And almost all of it came to fruition.
Yeah, pretty much. It's crazy because, like, we had the military build up like last year. Am I right? My memory's a bit off now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was like we're 2022. Yeah, last year back in April they did the military build up, and then when they did that, I was like saying there's like maybe like 80% chance they're going to do something, but not obviously at the scale that we had this year. And then they didn't, and then I said like that was a test, so they were testing the waters to see what the political reaction would be. And then obviously everything was quiet, and then we got to the end of October, and there was a flare up on the front line. Like Ukraine used the Bayraktar like drone to like take out a artillery gun that was like violating the ceasefire. Obviously within the right, obviously because it was a 122 millimeter artillery gun. And then as soon as that happened, like from that moment, I said like something's going to happen. Like this is the build up to something that's going to happen. And then we did I did the first like video with you back in November, and then we got deployed to the front line in Donbas in like late November time. And I just remember just being on the front line this time, like the atmosphere was like a lot different. Like everyone was always talking about this like build up, and then you look on like you look on the internet, you'd always like see these videos day after day of like vehicles just being transported to the border. And then I kept saying it was going to happen. I kept telling people like this is possibly going to happen this time. And then once it got to like sometime in mid-December, I think it was, or late December, that was when we started seeing the logistical vehicles being like shipped to the like to the borders with Ukraine, and the medical vehicles. And then I knew straight away like this isn't just training, this is like preparation for like invasion. Like there's like, why would you bring so many logistical vehicles? So yeah, and then like fast forward to January, like the whole political atmosphere, like the West, the Ukraine, and like Russia's just gone down the drain. And then come to February time, and it was something that I'd always pointed out when I like made these like observations before, but I completely forgot it was taking place this year. I forgot about like the Winter Olympics were taking place. So like obviously, if anyone knows their history, like Russian like military operations, like Georgia, they invaded Georgia after the Olympics. And then we have all this like political like turmoil going on, and all this like military movement. And then I realized like there's the Olympics, and I'm like, fuck, like this is probably at 95% chance that it's going to be an invasion. And I did the graphic. I did like the graphic of where like said where they might go for, and everything I said on the graphic was like pretty much on point. The only thing that was different was that I didn't expect them to do was that they decided to go for everything at once, which was like completely like idiotic. Even myself as like a low level like private, like from a like just from my experience in Syria or like the Ukrainian military, like I have enough like knowledge to like and common sense to know that was a bad idea in the first place. So, I mean, it says a lot about how this like war's been going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. So when you deployed, then Aiden, could you talk us through where? So you're in Donbas. What you're with the Marines again on the front lines. Can you talk us through where you're at? Is it February 24th when it all kicks off? Did I get the date right on that?
So yeah, it was February 24th. 1 second, let me get some my okay.
So Aiden, if you can take us to February 24th when this war kicks off, where were you at? What unit were you with? Kind of what was your role? If you can remember back to that day.
Back to February 24th. I'll put it a few days before because the previous 2 weeks before it, I was on vacation. I was in Nikolaev. Like my family came to visit me, and I spent time with my fiance at our house. And I remember just before I was due to go back, it was like a week before the invasion happened. I was like due to go back, and after like obviously following and like just because I use my social media to inform people about what's going on, current events and stuff. I was like taking in all this information. I was seeing that was on the social media space, like in like open source, like information and stuff. So I knew it was coming. And I remember when I had to return, I remember like fucking saying goodbye to my fiance and like getting in the taxi. As soon as I got in the taxi, like as I drove away to go to the bus station, like I like felt this like really like sense of like dread, like this is like probably going to be the last time I see my missus, because like I knew something was happening. And then we get back from vacation. Well, I get back from vacation to the front line. So I'm with the like First Marine Battalion, who's the part of the 36th Marine Brigade, and they're like based in Pavlopol, which is just down the road from Mariupol. And I remember when I got back, I saw my commander. Like I was like talking with my company commander, and he speaks perfect English. So we're like, I was just talking to him about like the current like political events that are going on, and I was like, this is going to be like total fucking chaos if this actually goes through. And I did an interview with the Telegraph the week before the invasion, where they like interviewed me, and I was just telling them straight up like what's going to happen. I just like said like if this conflict, like if this actually happens, like so many people are going to die. You know, there's like so many like new soldiers like that are in the military. Like a lot of the older senior ones who aren't in the senior positions ended up leaving. So you had like in my battalion there was like quite a lot of like younger soldiers, and I was like saying like they don't really have the grasp of like what this conflict will be. They have a sort of, because they're used to the trench like sort of like conflict where you go out, you don't get much artillery, you do a bit of shooting, a bit of fighting. And I was like they're not like they don't know the reality of like what it's actually going to be, especially when we've got airstrikes and stuff being used against us. And then like fast forward to like a few days before the 24th, I went to the battalion logistical hub, and when I got there, like we went there to go collect our like food and like water supplies for our position, like you do weekly. So when I got there, it's where they keep all the vehicles, like the armored vehicles and stuff. And I remember I got there and finished doing everything. I saw one of my Croatian friends who was in a different company there and walking around, and comes up to me and says, "Hey, like, have you seen that they're painting the vehicles?" I was like, what do you mean? Like they're painting markers on them? He was like, really? He said, yeah, they're doing all the armored personnel carriers. So I go over and look at them like painting everything, and like I see it like they're obviously like painting like identification markers, and I was like, fuck, like if they're doing that means like something's happening. And then fast forward to the 23rd, we got the warning order like from high command, like no one's allowed to leave positions. We all have to stay in position. And then like, later that evening, we got ordered by command, like everyone had to turn off electronics, because it's always a bit of a shock, like to like the Western military guys, like what do you mean like electronics? So because the conflict has been in the trench for like 8 years, obviously we don't have the same level of like discipline like in like the American military or the British military. So because we're in a static position for like 8 years, like they know full well where these positions are. So a lot of the positions on the front line at that time, they would have antennas to use internet and stuff. So the only real thing you would be told is basically OPSEC. Like don't talk about like OPSEC information on the like on Google, or like talking to your family. Like you can go on Google, go on Pornhub, whatever. Just don't say any don't say anything that like can give any like critical information away. And that's how it was, because like they knew where our positions was. So it's not like the signal was going to like give away our position or anything.
Yeah.
So they told everyone to switch off electronics, switch off the like internet, everything, and then we just went into like 24-hour silence mode. And then I went to sleep, and I woke up because I'm in a mortar company, so we work on the 120mm mortars. So we had a mortar position, and at like 12 o'clock, I woke up to do communication duty. Again, this is the Ukrainian military, like because we're like one position behind like where the main line is, like we're like 4 kilometers out from the nearest enemy position. So I was on communication duty. So all that would involve is that you would just lay in your bed with the company tablet, which is connected to the company and battalion. And if there's an alarm, like if the commander like tells you to start going to work, you get everyone up and go do your job. And I remember I was just sat there, just like playing Angry Birds or something. And I'm just sat there, and then all of a sudden I can hear like at 2 a.m. like everyone else is asleep, and like there's like I'm in a 4-man position, so like there's only 3 other guys and they're asleep. I remember just like laying there and just hearing like, and then like hearing the impacts like at a neighboring position, and I was like, what the fuck? That sounded like a grad. And then I quickly woke my commander up. I was like, sir, like wake up. He speaks English. He's like very good English speaker. I was like, sir, wake up. And he's like, what's up? What's going on? I said, like the fucking Russians are using grad. I was like grad, like what do you mean? Like listen. And then he's like listening, like he's still in his bed, like half asleep. And he like lifts his head up and he's listening, and then they do another volley with the grad. And then he's like, oh, it's nothing, go back to sleep. so by this time, like I'm starting to get a bit anxious because I can I can hear it going on and we're not getting anything like ready. Luckily though, the before I went to sleep, I went to the mortar pit and just prepared like 20 mortar rounds, like just ready to go. So like 2 hours later, I think it was like at 4 a.m. I managed to get to sleep, and the guy like took me off. I had like 2 hours sleep, and then the alarm like went through, and on our tablets we have this when the commander like sends the message through to like get to work, we have this alarm, and they have an alarm. It's like some sort of like electronic like music, like some popular song. I still hear it, and every time I hear it, it always makes me jump because it would always play when we would have to go shoot.
Are we talking like a Justin Bieber song or something?
Not
anytime
Justin. No, it's more like electronic.
Got it.
I'll have to find it. It's a good song, but every time I heard it on the, I was listening to my like music the other day when I was going into town, and it just started playing, and I didn't have it in my playlist or anything. It was just random. And I heard it, and as soon as I heard it, like my heart like just started like I was like, oh fuck, like
No.
do we have to get out of bed now?
Oh god. Okay.
So like fast forward to like when it was 4 a.m. We got woken up, and the commander's like the boil, and he's which is like go fight, like to fighting positions. So I already knew it was happening. I knew it was going to happen. So I just went to bed in like full uniform and my boots on ready. And then back in, we run outside, and back in, it's like literally like it's a bit quiet, but it's not so quiet. And then we get ready to fire, and then nothing happens. We get told to come back in, and I think it was like an hour, and I think it was like at 5 a.m. We got told to go back out again and start firing, and this time like it had all changed. Like there was just heavy artillery just like along the entire front line, like grads. It sounded like it was like something out of like World War One with like the sound of like artillery. So we go out to our mortar pit, and the gunner he starts setting the sights, and the commander's like giving the coordinates, and because I'm the assistant gunner, I had to get all the mortar rounds ready, take off the safety caps, and basically just get them ready to swing into the tube. And then he gave us the order to just fire 10 rounds like non-stop, and we did that. And as soon as we finished like 10 rounds, he says like run back inside. And then as we like got back inside, we came under like grad shelling. So they hit us with like, I think it was like something like 14 or 13 like grad like rockets, but luckily because our position was like in a cavis, like a valley thing. They couldn't pinpoint exactly where we were, so it ended up going behind us, like on the high ground.
How loud are those explosions for that? And just for people who don't know, a grad is like a truck mounted heavy, like 122, maybe like a pretty
Yeah,
massive piece of artillery that's mobile.
122. So they're similar. If anyone knows the World War II stuff, like they're like the step up from Katusha.
Yep.
So they're very loud, and when you hear them coming, like you will know they're coming in because it literally. Everyone always likes to say that the artillery is like the drums of war. Like artillery ain't fuck all compared to the grad. Like when you hear the grad, like when it's being shot at you, like you will hear like drums like that. Like it's like I was like it's pretty cool, but it's fucking terrifying. But it literally just straight up sounds like drums. Like when it's coming in, it's like boom, 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 boom. And then you hear that, and then there's the explosions. So then that stopped. Luckily, we were in our bunker at the time, so by this time, all of us are like chain smoking because like we know it's happened. Like the invasions, the war has started.
Aiden, can I ask you
yeah.
something real quick? Because this isn't the first time you've been in like no shit combat.
Yeah.
So is it a different feeling for you at this point in time? Because maybe it's a different adversary, anything like that?
At this point, it was still normal. Like it was just going to work. Because as far as I was aware, was that I knew the war had started, but I didn't know to what degree because we weren't being given any information about what was going on. So I was just working normally. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I just want to fucking not get wet because when we went out, it was pissing it down with rain. It was horrendous. Like it was the worst weather. Like out of the entire month, it was like pretty dry and cold. And the day they chose to invade us was the day it was pissing it down with rain. Our position was terrible because the mud, like everything had just literally become like bogs and like mudding. Like when I like ran down to like because we have to go down into the pit. I was like running down the steps and I fucking slipped and fucking like smacked my arse and like this would describe like how like relaxed like so when we go to work like we weren't wearing our body armor or a helmet like it was because we're mortars and you know it's our choice especially with the small confines like if you wear your body armor it's going to restrict your movement and speed so we literally said like we need to be in and out of there as fast as we can and because of the mud like I was like fuck that I'm not going to wear that it's going to fucking get me like weighed down or caught on something if I need to run inside so yeah at that point I was working normally it didn't really bother me or faze me so then we go inside and my commander so like for the past like 3 months I've been telling them like if people like followed me on Instagram I was always like oh there's going to be an invasion Russia's going to attack them for like the past 3 months my platoon commander he's a pretty cool guy like proper like smart educated etc and I kept saying to him it's going to happen and he was like in quite a lot of denial about it and then I remember when it happened I was trying to I like kind of like said like well at least I was right and at this point everyone's like chain smoking like I had like 2 cartons of like Marlboro Reds that the Sky journalist gave to us like back in early January when they came to interview us and at the time I wasn't a smoker but they gave it and it says like do you smoke I was like no but I'm going to need them and I remember I brought them to the position and no one on the position smokes and they kept asking me, so it's like, why do you have these like 2 blocks of like cigarettes? It's like, dude, don't touch them. You're gonna need them, trust me. Wow. And then as soon as we get back in, everyone's just like chain smoking like cigarettes because everyone knows like what's going on. Then we start asking like what's going on, Has command said anything like tell us what the situation is, and it's just like no one's telling me anything. And then we get told to go out again. So we go out and we go to work again. I think we shot we got it again. We got told to repeat a mission. So basically, from what I understood, from the information they gave was in regards to what we were shooting at. There was a position 3 kilometers away, and just in front of them, Russian tanks and infantry were coming down this tree line, and we were basically effectively just shooting at this infantry that were coming down this tree line. And they showed us the drone. Well, the commander showed me the drone footage of the aftermath, which was it looked like it was pretty effective. From what it showed me, there was 1 or 2 bodies from what the drone could see. So at least it was somewhat effective. And the other thing that was a good reminder as well is the 2 months previously, or just before we deployed, I did a fundraiser to replace all the tablets that our company had. So it's a good thing I did that, because everyone had fast running tablet computers to do coordinates and shit, so that helped a shit ton.
You did a GoFundMe campaign for that, Aiden?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Because back in October, because our company, when I joined it, because previously before that I said in the previous one, I was in Aerosol, which is paratrooper company, and then I transferred to Mortars back in late August. And when I joined it, I started noticing that some of the tablet stuff that they use for coordinating and stuff like that, they were either super old from 2014, or just like really battered and damaged and just running really slow. So I literally like went to my commanders. I was like, hey, like I've got like a sizable like following. Do you want me to see if I can get people to like donate so we can like replace this stuff? And he said, yeah, so I started doing that, and I started like raising funds like to get other stuff for the company. I got like a bunch of like generators, like because we were getting ready to deploy to the front line. I got like 5 like chainsaws for like each gun unit. So effectively, when we went, like we were pretty prepared, like with equipment stuff. So it was a good thing I did that. And then back to like the 24th. When we went out to do this second fire mission, we got told to do a repeat, and I think it was like on the 3rd or the 4th round, it jammed. It didn't go off, so we had to abort the mission, and then we ran inside. And then when we ran inside, we got another volley of like grad. And by this time, we're like, what the fuck is going on? Fuck this! I'm turning my phone on. Fuck it. Because at the time, our company tablet is connected to the internet, so it made no sense for why we can't fucking use the internet if there's already a signal being used. So we're like, fuck it, like this might be information we need to know. So I turn my phone on. As soon as I turn my phone on, it's just flooded with all these notifications, like just hundreds of like messages, like notifications. I had like 100 messages from my fiance. Like she's like sending all these like messages like, are you okay? Please respond. Like please say something. Please, you can't die. You have to come back and all that stuff. And I was like, Jesus, like what the fuck's going on? And then I see as I'm loading like Google, if I can see like it just keeps sending the message that she sent, and she says like Mykolaiv is like under attack. Like there's like bombing in Mykolaiv, and I was like, fuck. So then get on Google, and I just type in fucking live UA maps, and I just see like it's just a total invasion of Ukraine. I'm like, what the fuck? So like I see like there's like fucking north of Kiev is being invaded, like Mykolaiv or Odessa, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like I didn't I was like not expecting it to be this like big. And then I started getting like anxious because my missus told me that Mykolaiv is under attack, where her family is and like where she is. She told me like there's shelling like going on. So I started getting like really like anxious about that, because you know the saying, there's that gay saying about you don't fight what's in front of you, fight what's behind you. And then I started like it's like some weird military saying, "Oh, I see people share it on Facebook. It's a bit gay to share." It's like you don't fight what's in front of you, you fight what's behind you. And obviously, how could I get in that frame of mind when like my home is like being attacked and whatnot?
It's the true soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him.
Yeah. So like at that point, like I realized, like, why the fuck am I in Donbas? Like my fucking home and whatnot's in Mykolaiv, which is under attack. So at that point, I was like thinking, like I really hope we fucking just fuck off Donbas and just retreat. And then obviously, we continued like working throughout the day. We ended up having to bring a new mortar down because the fucking mortar we were using, because of the rain and the mud, it had effectively like gone from like if this was like the tube, like, and this was like the soil, it just literally just gone like that, just from like how like wet everything was. So that became inoperable. So we had to bring a new mortar, and then we had to bring another person down to help, because like 4 people operating it at the time was myself, and a gunner, and then another guy, and the commander. And he had to do the coordinates, so we had to get someone down to help us. And then it wouldn't be till later on that day, around I think it was around like 5 or 6 p.m. we got the order to like just abandon position and like retreat. Because we're mortars, though, we have a vehicle, because we load the 120 into the back of it. So we had prepared it beforehand. But we like literally just like packed the mortar and like chucked it in the back, and then basically took whatever we needed that we didn't take already from the position, and then we just like dosed petrol and like over everything. And then the commander like just set fire to the bunker, burned all the documents that were in it. At the time, because the pit where we store all our like mortars, we had about maybe 62 like 120 like HE mines. And just before when we got given the command to get ready to retreat, I was thinking about like maybe trying to booby trap it, but then I like kind of chickened out, because I don't want to fuck with something when I'm in such a rush. So we ended up just destroying the bunker, but we left all our ammunition behind. So we ended up retreating. Like during that like whole day, though, it was literally the sound, like it was like so intense, like it was it literally was like something that you'd hear like in like a World War I movie or something. Just everything going on, everything. Like for like sometimes we didn't know like who was on our left or who was on our right. We could hear vehicles like operating on the highland, like coming up on our left, and we kept like going to them, like trying to find out like who's on our left, because by that point I was like thinking like, what if there's like fucking like SF or like fucking paratroopers that are being like jumped in. So like there was a lot of confusion about like what was going on, and we were separated. So where the front line was, we had a river that separated us, so like we didn't have too much worry about them coming like across like so quickly. We were just a bit worried about who's behind us, or like where like the enemy might else be hiding. So once we got the order to retreat, we like retreated like 3 kilometers back, and then I think we like spent like maybe 2-3 days before we were eventually given the order to retreat to the steelworks in Mariupol. And by this point, like I kind of realized that we weren't going anywhere, because everyone seemed to be setting up defenses that seemed like they were going to be long term. And with my prediction from what I said before, like I said, Mariupol would be 100% lost, like if they come from Crimea, which they were at that time, which I knew. So at that point, like I said, I just told my commander, says, look, like I'm not going to be in a mortar position if we're going to be encircled. Fuck that.
Why is that? Why were you saying that, Aiden?
Well, because the 120 millimeter I'm not sure if it's in the West, but like in the East, they consider it artillery. So in the East, like the Russians, they have a select area for people who fucking get fucked up. So like if you're reconnaissance, you'll get fucked up for being like they treat you like a spy basically. Obviously, you get fucked up if you're a sniper. And then artillery, because like artillery is the one that like fucks people up the most. So I said like I don't want to be near that because we're going to be encircled. So like the last thing I want is to be captured, like in a mortar position, and fucking have the high possibility that I'd be fucking executed on site just for being a foreigner.
Yeah.
Which has happened. They have done that in the past where they just like kill the artillerymen. So like at that point I said like, look, I'm gonna fucking switch to my fucking like media stuff. I'm gonna fucking take my camera and just do what I can to fucking document everything. Still help everything. I was still helping like with the wounded and fucking helping like with the logistics and like the ammunition for the company. Still doing guard duty, etc. So a lot of it, like I turned my attention to doing what I could to try and help our situation in Mariupol. I knew I'd be a lot better if I could try and get people's attention on the city, especially being a foreigner as well. So obviously the people at the time, they would have seen that I was doing the videos about what the situation is. I was pushing so hard to try and get out into the city center at the time, but the commanders and whatnot, they were so reluctant to do it because like once we were encircled, it literally got to the point where you couldn't travel about the city because everything was being targeted. Like regardless, like ambulances were being targeted. Just anyone that they could see, like on drone or like from the jets, like they would just target them. So it became so difficult to get out and like do any of that stuff.
So you were confined to that steelworks.
Yeah,
facility.
we could stay in the steelworks territory pretty much. So we were fucking just doing what we could, trying to spot like where we were. We could see quite a lot of the land. Like we had quite a good vantage point across the land on the outskirts of the city. So we were using the radios to like try and just spot what we can see. And then toward like sometime in March time, my position was changed, like in relation to like my duties and stuff. And I would like monitor the radio and control who comes in and out the bunker at the top, and like relay stuff back to the HQ.
Aiden, so what was morale like inside there when you knew you were encircled?
First few weeks normal, because like I think our best bet of getting out of that situation would have been in the first week. Obviously, once the first week passed, then it started becoming a lot more difficult if we did try to get out. And then once like a month had passed, I mean, I already knew like what was going to happen if we didn't get out in the first week. As soon as the first week was up, I was like that's it for us. Like fucking, we're either gonna like surrender or get killed. I had like very slim, like I was thinking it would be a very slim like chance that they would ever like be able to break through this. Like the Ukrainians, they were pretty. The morale was like pretty like strong. Again, I think a lot of it falls back on a lot of the younger guys. Like they didn't really like know about this sort of like situational like background in history, like in regards to like encirclements. I mean, we've got, going back like to some recent ones, we've got like Deir ez-Zor in Syria, that they were besieged for like 4 years. But they only survived that because they had the logistical capacities to like airdrop like ammunition and stuff like that. And like as each day went by, like I'd always be asking like, so what's the situation? Like, are we going anytime soon? Because what a lot of people were talking about is they said we would most likely be like breaking out to fight our way to like Ukrainian lines. I was like, good, that's a smart move. I hope we do that. So we, well, at that time I was expecting that's what we would do. So we were always like, I was telling the guys I was with in my company, just keep your stuff ready, like clean it and stuff. Because like some of the guys that they were new soldiers, like because they're mortarmen, like mortar guys, like in the Ukrainian military at that time before the invasion, got pretty lazy. So they would probably clean their rifle like maybe like once if you told them to. So I had to like try and give some people a kick to like just clean their shit, like make it ready if in case we have to fucking like use them basically. And then I think it was about sometime towards the end of March or like March 20th, we got the command to start like basically welding and preparing like all the trucks that were in the battalion to like have them like welded with the steel that was available in the steel works. And because it was a steel works, there was lots of it available, all the tools that we needed to basically like fortify these vehicles, with the idea of that we would use them to break out and have some sort of protection to just try and drive for like friendly lines. And you know, at this point, like in the first or second week, I think it was, we started getting hit with the airstrikes. They hit just right outside where our entrance to the bunker was, and our bunker at the time, like, it's not as good as the one that they had in Azovstal. The one they had in Azovstal was like 30 meters deep. The one we had was only like 4 meters. So thankfully they didn't hit our bunker, because if they had a direct hit on it, it would have like just fucking gave way. But the second week they just hit us with like airstrike and then just a bunch of tank rounds and stuff. And then throughout the majority of that, it like was like sort of like calm relatively. Like, I mean, it was all how like elsewhere in the steelworks and stuff, but like they didn't pay too much attention to us. A lot of what they were doing was they were like, we were on full sight of them, we could see them. So what they would do is they would drive the artillery like grad trucks like 3 kilometers away, we could see them, and then they would just start shooting like at us, like in the direction, and then the grads would just go over us and like just hit the residential area behind us. So a lot of what we saw was them just shooting in our direction but not targeting us. They were just targeting like behind us into the residential areas. So there was a lot of that stuff that happened, and then there was just like as day by day went by, you would hear about like just be checking what the news is. Sometimes you might get lucky, like the commander might decide to open the Starlink so you could like maybe get some information or just tell your family you're alive. And you'd have that. I mean, that was the other thing as well. The Starlink was great. Obviously, like Elon Musk gave his company, whatever it was, they gave like hundreds of like Starlinks and opened it up for Ukraine. That saved us a bunch in Ukraine, like especially like in the first part of the operation. Like when if we didn't have Starlink, like no information would have got out of Mariupol at all, like none whatsoever.
So basically, you're surrounded in this fixed position with a crappy bunker, and you've got relatively no information coming in. I can't even imagine what it's like for your family, thinking like knowing that this is happening on the news and not being able to connect. And we're talking like, I think if I got the timing right, war kicks off on the 24th of February. You said you kind of fall back. It's a few days, then you're in the plant. So presumably like late February, early March until I think April 12th. Like, so this is a long time to just be there sitting.
I mean, the other thing as well is once my biggest fear with the encirclement, like in the beginning, I kind of thought, okay, maybe I couldn't like picture us like deciding to stay in Mariupol, because like from my perspective, and I presume anyone with common sense, it would be idiotic to like stay in Mariupol, especially when you've got 2 fronts coming from you from both directions. So I had always thought we'd maybe like go back to Mariupol and then would like reorganize and then slowly like what do they call it, a slow retreat, like pitter potting, till we got to a stable front line where we can like be supplied and stuff. But like once we were encircled and that happened, and then I started like seeing like the map of like the territory just being taken. It went from like 40 kilometers. At that point, I was like, okay, yeah, that's still doable. We can, like, there's nothing to worry about. And then like a few days would go by and I'd check it again, and then it would be like 80 kilometers. And I was like, fuck, like, what the fuck's going on? So like once it got to like 80 kilometers, that was like the point when I knew like this, there's no way out for us. Like on this, like we've either got to hold out as long as we can if we have the supplies, or we're going to have to either get killed or get surrendered, or surrender. So, you know, like fast forwarding to the first week of April, like by this point, like we've like run out of food, like our ammunition. So by this point, we were like getting ready to like do a mass breakout. We were going to try and just drive and fight our way out to the Ukrainian lines that were like 140 kilometers away. And all the vehicles had been prepared. Obviously, I knew at that point that like these steel sheets that they were putting on weren't going to do anything for the like 12 millimeter or the like 23 millimeter guns that they have. And like some of the younger soldiers were like trying to convince me, like no, it's good to protect you. I was like, dude, I was in Syria. Like, this is the same thing that ISIS did.
I've seen this.
ISIS did this. We fucked them up. It doesn't work. And they just like were so convinced, which I can't blame them. They're just probably scared.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fucking shitting myself because I knew I was a foreigner. I would fucking I knew from my experience in Syria or just any war in general, whenever like a foreigner is like captured, like they're in for like a good time. So when like that first week came and we ran out of food, we had plenty of water. That was the good thing. We had plenty of water, but towards the end of the first week, that's when like the artillery and like the airstrikes just went like from maybe like 20% to like 90% just fire rate. Like, so everything was just getting smashed. And then eventually, because we started taking like heavy casualties, like people were realizing that we need to fucking like go if we're going to do this. And eventually a night came and everyone got told to get ready, like get your bags, like get it ready to go, get to your trucks ready. Everyone was like ready to go. Like all the brigade came, like all the units in the city like just came ready to go. And then we got stood down last minute, so everyone went back to their positions and stuff. And that the morning after that, by this point, the city had already been split in half. So the Chechens and the Russians and whatnot, they'd like effectively cut us off from Azovstal, which was in the southeastern quarter of the city. So we were cut off, and then also because of that, all the units that were in the city, they've effectively like retreated to our steelworks or retreated to the Azovstal. So now in my bunker, we had about maybe 500 or nearly 1,000 people like in my bunker altogether. That included like the wounded, like National Guard, Border Guard, police, just people that like just had nowhere else to go. And at that point, that's when they just like started smashing us with everything they had. Have you seen the film Downfall?
No.
So there's the film. It's ironic I mention it because they always like call us Nazis. But there's a scene in it because it's about like Hitler's like bunker, like during his like final days. And there's a scene in it where like everyone knows like the war's over. You can see everyone's like scared on their faces and stuff. Like on that day that this all happened, like it was literally like a scene from that. Like every time like the tank or the airstrike hit, and it was like repeated as well. Like it wasn't just a single round and that would be it. Like they would shoot, there'd be like one, and then there'd be like two or three more. and then they just keep shooting, and the shock wave would come through the bunker. So there was just all this dust being kicked up in the air. Our ears were getting rattled because of the pressure wave, and I just remembered like just seeing the look on everyone's faces. Like everyone was like so not crying, but like everyone, you could see everyone like realize like we don't have any other choice. And then when this happened as well, because the night before we got ready to like break out. So that we had 2 trucks, and because we were getting ready to leave, we packed these 2 trucks up with all of the battalion's like ammunition. So when we were getting smashed this day, and a jet got lucky, and they got a direct hit on the 2 trucks carrying our ammunition. So I remember I heard the jet coming, so I like sprinted down the stairs because at the time I think I was on guard duty. And I heard the jet come, and I just heard the boom, wasn't phased, and then all of a sudden I just hear all these other explosions going on. It just sounds like everything going off, and I was like, oh fuck, I hope that's not what I think it is. And then everyone's like saying like, what is that? What's going on? What's going on? And then you can just hear like people saying like, our ammunition's just been destroyed. Oh. And everyone's like cursing, like everyone's like, fuck. Again, we're Aiden, still getting smashed.
Are you at? Man, we talked about this before in Syria. You've like been on the receiving end, what felt like an airstrike. So like, you know how scary that can be already.
Yeah.
Have you, at this point, like first weeks of April, have you come to grips with like, I might not make it out of here? I might just be dead. This might be like the last place I see on the earth.
I expected I was either going to die in this. I mean, I knew 100% if we don't get killed, we would surrender. But I was pretty convinced I was probably going to be killed. I was just waiting for the airstrike to like hit a bunker, which I presume they would have done at some point. So it was extremely stressful for all of us because like we knew the inevitable decision is coming where we're going to have to like go ahead and surrender, like the thing that no one ever wants to do. But again, like when like everyone always like talks about like how they would never surrender and stuff like that, but like when the opportunity, when that time comes, like you don't really have much time to make that like choice if you want to do it or not. So we knew it was coming, and I think a lot of others knew it was coming as well. And I remember, I remember seeing my battalion commander. He was like walking around. He was in the smoking area, and his body language was like really like my battalion commander. He's a really good guy, like a really great commander, and he did a lot of good decisions like during the first initial like during the our experience and time in the first initial part of the invasion. So like I respect him a lot for like his decisions and whatnot. And I remember when I saw him in the like smoking area in the bunker, like his whole body language was like totally, like I could see that he was like devastated, and I could understand it a bit more because like not only is it like his situation, like he's like responsible for like all of us, and it's like the last thing like any commander wants to be in a position like that. And I remember seeing him like that, and like when I saw that, like that's when I like knew like this is it, like if he's if it's got to him that much. And I remember later that night, I think it was around 10 p.m. I'd gone to my bed to try and whatever sleep I could get, watch whatever Netflix I could still watch. I'd watched Inglourious Bastards like 42 times, I think, while I was there.
Why that one?
It was the only movie I had downloaded.
You had downloaded it.
Yeah, so I watched it in English.
It's really like, uplifting. So yeah.
Yeah, I watched it in English, and then I watched it in French and German, Russian. So I know every aspect of that film now. So it was the only thing I could take off, that I could like watch to take my mind off of like what was going on outside at the time. And then so at 10 p.m. Again, everyone gets told to get ready, like we're getting ready to go. And then my commander comes over to me and he's like, Johnny, like, you've got a decision. You've got like 5 minutes to think about it. Like you've got to like give me an answer. And he says, basically, there's 3 options. Like you can either try to break out with us and fight your way in the vehicles to Zaporizhzhia, which was like 140 kilometers away, in the trucks and stuff that we'd like welded steel on. And then the other option was to try and like walk out on foot, and basically walk to Ukrainian lines. Or the other one was that you could stay here, surrender with the other guys who want to surrender, and stay here with the wounded and surrender officially. And from my experience, I already knew 140 kilometers, like a breakout attempt in like trucks and stuff, that it was like pretty suicidal. I mean, yeah, if you've got enough pride, you can go ahead and do it. I mean, I like I said, like this goes back to my experience with Syria, like with ISIS, when they attempted to try and break out in like convoys and stuff, like they just got smashed by like artillery and like airstrikes, and then none of them ever made it to wherever they wanted to get to. So that was like one of the key reasons I chose not to do that, just from my experience, like seeing it on the other side. And then the other reason why I chose not to try and like walk out on foot. At this point, there was probably, I think, maybe 2,000 Marines and like National Guard and everyone else in total that was in the city, well, in this part of the steelworks. So I knew like this amount of people trying to break out of such a small area would just end in disaster. And plus it was 140 kilometers and we had no food. We had no food and very little ammunition, etc. So all we had really was water, and I by that point I was like, fuck it, like I'm gonna either get killed trying to like walk out, or I can just hope for the best with maybe 90% possibility that the way I judged it was like I judged the possibility of death higher with the breakout attempt and walking out because of the amount of people involved.
Yeah.
And then when it came to surrender, I had it weighed had it guessed roughly that maybe it would be like maybe 85 or 80% possibility they kill me, but there's that small possibility that they don't kill me. And I knew straight away, if they don't kill me, they would most likely use me as propaganda. It's the only logical conclusion I could come to. But again, as well, I also knew with that comes everything else that's related to being in captivity, especially being a foreigner. So I knew I wasn't going to be in for a good time. So I chose to surrender. And quite a lot of us from our battalion actually chose to surrender as well. So basically, all the guys that wanted to try and get out, they went. And by this point, there must have been like 500 or 600 of us like that were in the bunker still. And we had a senior, he was a captain. I think at like 4 a.m. he contacted the Russians on the radio and basically told them that we want to surrender.
Jeez.
And
Aiden, was that the hardest choice you ever had to make?
Yeah. I really wanted to like try and like walk out, but at that point, like there was so much like chaos and confusion with like what was going on. Like no one really knew exactly like what exactly the plan was. Like people were splitting up, people were going different ways and stuff. Like like the guys that were walking out, it got pretty much to like each group goes to their own. But there wasn't really any sort of like set plan. So like, which is understandable given like where it's at. So there was a lot of like chaos and disorder by that point, because of the situation. It was like probably the toughest like decision I've had to make, because whatever like choice I picked would affect whether or not I would live or be killed, pretty much.
God. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you've been in combat already, we know this. Have you ever gone
Yeah.
through kind of that resistance, the SEER type training to, like, if you're in captivity, how you try to
Oh
survive?
yeah. So SEER training, they don't do any of that. Like obviously, people who know me, I wasn't in the British military before this.
Right.
Um, and then in the Ukrainian military, they don't do any of this training. My British friend Sean, he obviously went to the British equivalent of SEER when he was in the British military. So I had no grasp on, like, I mean, I knew what to expect just from what I've seen, like on like those documentaries. There was a documentary, I can't remember what it's called. It's like SAS Survival or something. I remember watching it years ago on Discovery Channel. So I only had like a small like intake of like what to expect. Even then, like that was something I'd totally forgotten about. But like at that moment, I started like remembering stuff that I'd remembered seeing from it. And it's funny because people be like, yeah, but it's a TV show. Like how can that help you? And I remember when I got out of captivity, the first thing I did was like go on Google, go on YouTube, and just typing to find that show. And it was like a whole episode on interrogation, surviving captivity, and everything they said in that show was like pretty much on point, which
Yeah.
was like pretty crazy. So like I knew straight away that they're going to try and get information, and it's not going to be nice. They're going to fucking like do stuff to make you extremely uncomfortable, beat you. Like basically, I knew I'd be getting like tortured to various degrees and stuff, like for like information. What I didn't expect them to do though was like to stab me.
So I had a
Yeah,
question in here about this. So why don't you, now that we know you have the captain making the radio call to surrender effectively. So I think the date I had was April 12th. Could be
yeah,
somewhere around there. Can you take us through what happens next? Like
yeah.
through this
So
process.
basically, he contacted them. They gave him the choice. They gave him the choice. He says like, look, you can either surrender to the Russian, like us, the Russians, or you can surrender to the DPR. Obviously, he chose the Russians with the background history of like the DPR and also the Geneva Convention sort of status stuff, which at the time we thought would actually be applied. Obviously, it wasn't though. So obviously, he came back and then he just told the seniors of whoever was available in each company to go around collecting people's like names, like rank and like just information, and they had to like make a list basically of everyone who was surrendering. And then we disarmed ourselves, like we placed all our rifles like in one room, and then we didn't go straight away. We're just like waiting for the order, and then the captain he ordered the Starlink to be opened so that people could speak to their families for like one last time. And as soon as he opened the Starlink, like by this point, I didn't expect him to open it. So like by this point, I had factory reset my phone. I deleted everything on it. I was preparing to destroy it, but luckily I saw them open it before I did that. And I just re-downloaded Facebook. I had to make a new account because my Facebook account is like all two-factor authentication, and because there's no signal, I can't get back into it. So I had to make a new account, and I was just spamming like all my friends that I could think of because none of them were like, because it's like the message request, it doesn't show up. So I was just spamming people's like comments and stuff. And then eventually one of my friends, Brennan, he like responded, and I just called and was like, hey man, like, obviously, you know where I am. I'm in Mariupol. We're in a shit situation. Like we have to surrender. Like all our ammunition's gone. Like we're fucked basically. And he was basically like just telling me like don't surrender. Like try to get out. And I was like telling him like all those possibilities are gone. All those opportunities are gone. Like there's no way to get out. And I said, like, can you get in contact with my family so I can speak to my mother before I surrender? I need you to wake her up. So he went ahead and did that, and eventually she called me, and I remember I called her and I was just telling her, says like, did Brennan like tell you what's going on? And she was like, yeah. She sounded like super calm about it. I presume she was in shock. And I was just telling her like, I'm gonna like I have to surrender. There's no other like possibility for us like to get out of this. Like, it's either surrender or we'll probably get killed. So I spoke to her a bit, and I was like saying to like, can you like wake Diane, like my fiance, like just wake her up and get her to call me so I can speak to her one last time. And then she did that, and then I got a message from my fiance, and we called, and I remember speaking to her and like just talking to her happily, like just trying to act like I wasn't like phased too much, and she was like super like quietish. I think she was crying because I could hear her crying, obviously. I was like telling her, like, don't worry, like, I will come back to you, like I promise. Just expect that I might be in captivity for like a long period. Like I range it from anywhere from like 5 to like maybe 12 months to 2 years. They're going to use me for like propaganda and stuff. And then I remember this, like, I promise I'll come back to you. And a lot of the other guys I was speaking with at that point as well, like they all like said roughly the same thing. Like after we were encircled, like they promised like the like families or wives or whatever, like they'll come back to them. And once I'd finished with that call, I went straight into where the factory was, where we'd just been getting smashed. And I knew I had to make a proof of life video because my expectation was, well, basically I was expecting I was about to be killed, basically. So I went and like filmed a proof of life video just to show people, now that people know that I'm surrendering. And I did the proof of life video like an hour before we went to surrender officially, just telling people that we're surrendering. And then I sent it on the Starlink. I sent it to my friend and my mother, and I just told them, just get this out everywhere. Make sure people see this. And then like an hour later, actually no, I went after I did that video. I went back inside, and I go downstairs, and everyone's like pretty quiet, but like joking and trying to like have some humor. And I see one of the officers who I'm good friends with, and I go over to him, and he's got like a bottle of champagne. He's like drinking it. I like go over and I was like asking, can I have some champagne, please? And then I tried making a joke about like, I hope there's no military police around. So we're just like some of the guys are just sat there like just drinking some alcohol that they found somewhere, obviously.
Yeah.
So just drinking whatever I can get before I go to whatever I'm going to. And then, but at that point, like everyone's like pretty like fucked. They know what's happening next. There was like one of my other friends. He was injured at the time. Like he had a leg injury, and he was super scared. Like I was like sat with him, and he was like telling me like, dude, like I'm scared. Like I don't want to do this. And he was like telling me like he was like literally like saying to me like he was thinking about like shooting himself. I was like I convinced him, like, says, dude, like this isn't ISIS. Like they're not gonna fucking kill you like they do in fucking ISIS. I said, yeah, it's going to be a bad time for us mentally, but you will go home eventually. Like just keep that in mind. And I obviously took my words and decided to go through with it and surrender, not kill himself. But like when the time came, so basically how they did it was we went company by company. So first it was like first company or something, and then it was our company, the mortars. So we got into the back of this truck with like, I think it was like 29 of us. I think it was like 20 of my mortar guys, and then some others to fill the gaps. And basically we raised like the white flag, and then we drove all the way around the territory of the factory to this drop-off point. We got off the truck. There was like a body like next to where our drop-off point of like one of our guys from the battalion. He was in the air assault. Like his body was like just laying like just by his vehicle. So I don't know what happened to him. I think he was from the night before, basically. So we ended up like walking up the stairs like to cross over this train line. And as we like walked across there with like our hands raised and stuff, eventually we were met by one of the Russian. I think it was Amon. So he came to meet us and he took us back. And then eventually we just got to a point where they just like searched us all, checked our documents. And obviously when they saw my document, like the guy that was searching me, he was okay. They didn't bother us at that time. He was just like checking documents, making sure we didn't have any weapons. Like these guys were Russians. And he saw my passport and noticed I was British. And he was just like, why are you here? And he was like, my fiance. He's like Ukrainian. He was like, huh. And then
a girl.
we got.
I'm here, a woman. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And then they loaded us into a bus, and then the bus drove us to a warehouse just outside of Mariupol in a neighboring town. And once we got there, like we got transferred over to the DPR soldiers. And then once that happened, like it just went. It was like welcome to captivity. So we got rushed off the bus. They told all the guys to dump all their personal belongings. I forgot to mention just before we got searched. So I mentioned earlier before that I was deleting everything on my phone. I destroyed all my electronics. I destroyed my phone. I made sure like to destroy it like proper good. I destroyed the hard drive chip, and then just scattered it everywhere and chucked it down the toilet and stuff. But then a lot of the Ukraine, like the younger soldiers that I was with, like they took their like iPhone like 13s with them, like stuff like that. And I was like telling them, like, dude, destroy it. That's fucking, don't do that. There's like so much information on there. And he says, no, it's okay. Like, I'll get it back. He says, dude, you're not going to get that back. It's fucking iPhone.
It's not airport security. Yeah. Jesus.
So yeah, there was a lot of that. I saw so many people do that. So like when I did it, I destroyed my phone, my camera. Like I had I think it was like $3,000-4,000 worth of like camera equipment and SD cards. Like my SD cards, I had so much footage on there just from what I'd captured in Mariupol. Like I had filmed everything that was going on. I must have had maybe close to 200 to 400 hours worth of just fucking content on there. And I was hoping the idea that if we did get out, I'd be able to fucking show the story of the Ukrainians in Mariupol. So I had to destroy all of that stuff, obviously, because if they get their hands on it, there's something that they could use in that on someone. And then so going back to where I was talking about with the steel the warehouse when we got handed over to the DPR. So we get there again. We go straight in. The Russian shouting at us. We get put into this stress position where we have to lean with our head, standing with our arms behind our back and our back hunched. So we stood there for an hour or two, and then they start processing us one by one. They call us out and show them your military documents and your passport. Everything was, there was a bit of cursing to the Ukrainians, and then it came to my turn, and I go out, give them my military ID and my veterans card, and then I gave him my passport. And I knew 100% I was going to get something because I'm a foreigner. So I had already mentally prepared and was expecting it. So the dude's going through my military ID and no problems, and he's going through my veterans card, no problems. And then he gets to my passport, and on my passport I've got a Ukrainian passport cover. So if you look at it, you wouldn't know it's a British passport. So when he starts looking at it through, and he's like, look, and he's like, where are you from? In Russian. And I said to him with a small smirk, because I knew it was. I was shitting myself at the same time. I was like Britannia, which is Britain. And as soon as I said that, I just got a punch to the face a few times. I will admit I did take it at that point. I was surprised. And then he beat me a few times, and his stopped it and just jumped forward. Otherwise, I'll if I keep talking the way I am, I could talk for.
So we had just a little bit of a connection issue there. So it sounded like I caught the part where this DPR guy sees your passport, figures out it's not Ukrainian, asks you, you say you're basically from Britain. He punches you in the face. And then I think you said you kind of kept things lighthearted a little bit and were taking a bit of a beating, and then realized you had to had to start getting serious?
Yeah. So I knew it was coming, and I mean, it wasn't like a hard beating. It was more like, I mean, the first punch was like a pretty hard punch. I mean, I don't think it was like as hard as I think, because like I think a lot of it falls back on like I used to do boxing ages ago. So I mean, maybe it was hard, or maybe I'm just used to it. So I couldn't really. I mean, it hurt my nose after. So I think it was just that I was just used to it, and I think it might have just been a lot harder than what I thought it was. So I didn't really like hold him to it or anything. But at that time, though, I was still shitting myself because like now I'm in DPR hands, and they know I'm a foreigner, and then eventually they detach all my like Ukrainian flags and stuff, and they just stick it on my head, like humiliate me, and then they took me aside, and when they took me aside, they told me to get on my knees. And when he told me to get on my knees, that's like when I shit myself. Like I was so scared when that happened. It's like he just took me to the side of the wall, and like, I was literally thinking like maybe like it's about to fucking execute me. Like what the fuck's going on? And then like after like I think like told me to stand up just in the group. But I remember a guy in my battalion who's like a senior guy, and he's originally from Donbas region. And I remember like I went over him, and he was like, "Oh, Johnny, how are you?" I was like, "Shit."
What did he say to you? What did he say to you?
He was like, "Johnny, how are you?" And like in Russian, and I was
Oh,
like, "Shit, pretty shitty." And then he turns to me and he says, like, "Johnny, do you know?" I was like, "No, what?" He says, "We're both fucked." Because he's from Donbas region, so that's
oh,
like you get a
Jesus.
fucking for that. And obviously because I'm a foreigner, I'm gonna get a fucking. And I was like, "Yep, we're fucked." And then they told us they stood us in these positions for like they told us to get back into this position, and we had to stand there for like 11 hours.
Oh.
So that was like fucking, that was horrible. That was, so like I was stood in this position, and you weren't allowed to move. Like if you moved, they fucking started shouting shit at you, and like you, you could only imagine what would happen if you didn't do what they say. So we're like stood in this position. I remember at one point, like I lost track of time. I couldn't tell like how long it had been, or like how long it had been standing there. I was like kind of like nodding off, like just falling asleep. But as soon as I'd fall asleep, my body like would drop, and then I'd jolt back up. And then I think it was like the next morning we got moved into the warehouse next door, where all the other people that like tried to escape in the convoy exit and stuff, like they were captured, like, and they were in the building next to us, and then the building we were put into was everyone else that was from the brigade bunker that surrendered. So then like around like 10 o'clock, or I think it was 9 o'clock, I get taken out, and the Russians, like I can see the Russian Tiger vehicle. So I was like, okay, like what's going to happen? Get in the back of this Tiger, and there's like some Russian soldiers there. I think they might have been FSB. I'm not 100% sure, but they just like interview me, like asking me some questions and stuff. Pretty normal, professional. They didn't like beat me or anything. And then as I went, like they kept my military ID, and they kept my veterans card, and just gave me my passport back, which like gave me anxiety, because like my military ID was the thing that said I wasn't a mercenary, basically. So I started getting really like big anxiety about like why have they kept that. So then I go back into the building, and basically I think after some time that they take me out again, and this time I go to a different part of the building, and there's like some guys, like KGB like looking guys from like Donetsk. They start asking me all these questions, and eventually they say, "Oh, you're a sniper. You and Sean Pinner are snipers." Start saying all this stuff, and I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not a sniper. I'm not a sniper." And this is like, "And what are you?" I was like, "I'm a Ukrainian Marine." Like, "What's your position?" I was like, "I'm in mortars, like 120." "Oh, mortars! Like, what do you do in mortars? Are you the gunner?" I was like, "No, no, no. I just help prepare the mines and stuff." And I could tell by their tone, like that was a bad thing. Like being in mortars by the way they were speaking to me. And then they said like, well, like it's a good thing that we have some of your friends here, because like we're going to go get some guys from your company who we've caught, and if they say something different to what you've just told us, then we're going to like have you a good time basically. And I remember they went and got some of the guys who chose to try and break out in the escape, and they brought them in, and they looked like shit. They looked like they'd been beaten and shit. So they brought them in, and they basically just repeated everything I told them, like about being in the Ukrainian Marines and all that stuff.
So it's a good thing you told the truth there. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you never know when to. That's a great call by you.
Yeah. I mean that was the other thing when I surrendered, because people always say about I'm not sure if it's in the American military, it might be, but people always say like in the British military, like from what I've heard from friends and stuff, like you always drip feed in information and stuff. But the way I saw it was there was nothing to drip feed. Like the whole battalion was like surrendered. There was no headquarters. Headquarters was effectively gone.
Yeah.
Like everyone was surrendering. Everyone that wasn't surrendering was like trying to get out. So the way I saw it was if I try to like not give them information, like they're gonna find it out sooner or later, especially with like 1,000 people that have just surrendered alongside me, like a lot of people who know me personally.
Yeah.
Especially with my social media as well.
Yep.
Just the amount of people that there was no way you could hide something, because if I like tried to say I wasn't this and that, especially in that situation, they would have fucked me up for that big time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they still fucked me up big time anyway, but there's a lot of things that I think I did correctly that avoided me from being potentially like beaten, where I could have been killed or something. So like just fast forwarding later that day, I get taken out. I get taken to this like SUV, put in the back of it. I'm in handcuffs, and as soon as we're driving out, they say like we're taking you to be shot. By that point, like my mental mind was gone. Like, I was like, fuck this, like just fucking shoot me. I just ignored what they said and pretended I didn't understand it. I mean, I was shitting myself, but like by that point, like I was just like ready to be shot. And eventually I realized that I wasn't being taken to be shot. I was being taken somewhere else. And it was I was thinking either it's going to be Russia or it's going to be Donetsk, and I was praying it would be Russia for some reason, just for some hope. And then eventually I realized we went down the road that didn't go to Russia, and I realized I was going to Donetsk, because halfway through the journey they didn't have a hood on my head. And then eventually they just told me to put a plastic bag on my head, and that still didn't stop me from seeing, because there was like holes in it. So eventually, like it took us like 2 hours, but like that entire time I was preparing myself for what's about to come next. I'd been separated. It's only logical that the next thing that comes next is interrogation. So I was preparing myself mentally for what's about to happen. And I was like saying to me, I kept like speaking to myself. It was like saying like I'm about to be fucking beat. Like this is going to be horrible. Like just try to get through it. Like I was just basically talking to myself mentally. And eventually we got to Donetsk and get out of the car. They take the bag off, and they take the bag off. And this guy like says something to me, like I'm like in a stress position, like in a restraint position. And he like says something to me in Russian. I don't know what he said. And then I asked him to repeat it in Russian. As soon as I said that, like he just like beat me a few times over the head with a baton, with the police bat. And then he hit me on the back here, which is where he'd actually stabbed me, which I didn't know at the time. And then he drags me into this building and takes me into this room and just beats the fucking shit out of me. Probably the best beating I've ever taken. I mean, I screamed like a bitch through most of it. I was like just screaming like "Pajawasta, Pajawasta." I didn't really expect him to stop. I was just like fucking like just shouting stop. He beat the shit out of me with that. It like lasted for like maybe 2.5 hours. Like just
I'd
get asked a question, and then every answer I give, it would just get beaten again. Eventually, eventually it just got to the point where I was like in and out of consciousness because of the blood loss that I had from my like stab wounds, and then also just the beating, especially like I got hit here and like I got hit a few times around here, so I was pretty like concussed. And then there was the part when he like came and like I was like sort of like resting. No, I wasn't resting, but it was like in between like being beaten. He like this guy, he like basically just said to me like if I wanted a beautiful death or if I wanted a quick death. Like I think he said it after I'd been stabbed or before I'd been before he told me I'd been stabbed. When he said that, like I literally shit myself. I'm pretty sure it was after he told me he stabbed me, because I remember like as soon as he said it, like I literally fucking like that was like the most scared I've ever been in my life. Like when I realized I'd been stabbed, and then he's like talking about if I want a quick death or like a beautiful death. And as soon as he said beautiful death, the only thing I thought about at that moment was like thinking back to those live leak videos of like people like in the cartel, like just being like stabbed repeatedly in the throat and stuff like that. And at the time, he throughout that beating, there was a few occasions where he like got the knife like to my throat and threatened to cut off my ears if I lied about something. Obviously, standard interrogation, but like after I'd realized I'd been stabbed, like you don't really start to think about stuff like that.
Could you not feel the stab wound because of just all the other adrenaline and beatings you were taking?
When he did it, I thought I'd literally just been hit with a bat there. I didn't feel the knife. Like it just felt like I'd just been hit there. And then when he pointed it out, like because I was like in so much like, well, because of the adrenaline, like everything else, like and my body was like just in fucking pain. Like I didn't feel it, but I could feel it. Like I was like so exhausted and stuff. And then eventually they found my tattoo. They told me to take my shirt off, and they saw my Ukrainian trident tattoo. They beat me for that. And then they came to the second tattoo, which was my YPG tattoo. So then I got beaten for that when I told them what it was, because they asked me what it was, and I said Syria. Oh, Syria. They just fucking beat me for that. I mean, I knew that was going to happen because obviously being in Syria, like of all places, so I knew that was coming. So they fucked me up good. But it's weird because when I was getting beat, it didn't. I mean, it's weird to comprehend. I'm not sure if it goes back to just being in the boxing phase or if it was just the adrenaline. But like when I was being beaten, I was still able to like speak to myself. It's like really hard to explain. I was like speaking to myself inside my head, and I was just like kept telling myself like it's going to end eventually. It's going to end. Like you've got to survive. Like, and it was funny because there was one moment when he was beating me. I was kind of like talking to myself as I was being beaten. And there was one moment where I said to myself, everyone takes a beating once in a while, like from Goodfellas. It just popped into my head. I don't know why. I hadn't seen the film for like years, and I just remembered that like one quote from that movie, and it just popped into my head, and I don't know why. And then eventually, I said it too many times there. It ended up stopping, and this guy who'd been coming in and out, who spoke a bit of English, like he said, like if you want this to stop, just say. If not, like I'll leave you alone. Which I knew was they would just continue beating me. So I was like, fuck this, fucking okay. And then they just took me in to do a testimony, basically about like my whole history, about where I've been, what I've been doing, like why I'm here. And like one of the first questions they were asking me was, they said to me, "Are you SAS?" And I was like, "Dude, like I'm fat. Look at me." And then again, he asked me like, "Are you MI6 or do you have any contact with any intelligence services?" I was like, "Dude, like I'm just a Ukrainian. I'm a foreigner who joined the Ukrainian Marines." And I was like, "Huh, okay." And just like basically asking all these like normal questions and stuff about what I'd done and just my history in the military, etc. He said they said they would get a medic to look at my wound, my stab wound, but they never did. And then they put me back in the cell, and I was like in this like super tiny room. It was like probably the size of a bathroom, and there was like 17 to like 31 people like at one point, like during my 3 weeks there.
In the room at the same time, Aiden?
Yeah, and like, this is a
Wow.
room with no windows or like basically just one door, no ventilation. And then we at that place we also got fed like one piece of bread, and then we had 2 bottles of water, like 2 liters each, and we had to share that between everyone.
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
I mean it was all right for me because it meant I could lose some weight, but the other guys that weren't like big guys when the war started, like they ended up like getting like really skinny and stuff. So like I think in total I lost like 27 kilograms. I mean it's not much for me because like I'm a fat cunt, so it actually worked quite in my favor.
And actually,
But
Aiden, if I can, just for a second, so for the American audience, that's about 60 pounds, which is crazy.
yeah,
We did, for kilograms. When you were in that room, were you all able to were you able to communicate, and were you able to keep, it sounds like you were, for whatever reason, knew you had to keep your spirits up, which is like a key tenet that we're taught. Um, were you able to do that with the people in that room?
so when I got put in the cell, there wasn't really anyone I recognized. I think there was like 1 or 2 people I recognized, and then I think it was like the next day when I was in there, because at this point it was like 17 people, but the max it ever got to that room was like 31 people while I was there. And I think it was the next day, like the major from my battalion and some 2 other guys from my battalion as well. They came in, and I saw my major, and like I'm on the floor like a cripple. And he walks in because he's a major. He was like, "Oh, Johnny, Cogdalao." I was like, fucking awesome, and I'm just like, ah. And then obviously that's when I got taken out that day to go do my first propaganda video, which is where they did the first photo where I've got like the big cut and
Yeah.
my face is all fucked up. So I did the propaganda video with that. Like literally any time I ever got like taken out to do a propaganda video, it was in that place where I'd been stabbed. So I knew straight away.
Why would they beat you up right before a propaganda video? Like, it just seems so stupid, but so Russian
That's what
at the
I'm
same
saying. And
time.
what they did as well, I remember. So I realized like I knew 100% what was going to happen when I saw this journalist coming in. Well, not journalist, propagandist coming in. So I knew 100%. Okay, like I'm gonna have to fucking say some bullshit. Obviously, I'd been stabbed at this point, so by that point, like I realized like I'm gonna have to say some things that I don't like to say. So when this supposed journalist walked in, like his whole vibe and attitude was like really like aggressive. So I was like, fuck, this guy's a propagandist. I'm gonna have to fucking bullshit my way through this. So for the vast majority of this like first interview, I was like fucking just talking total like bullshit that I knew they wanted to hear. But I made sure when I was like saying it that I would like fucking just make it sound like total fucking gibberish, or I would like one of the things that I told my family. I think I told my fiance before it. I said to like if I get used for propaganda, which they will most likely use me for, like keep it, like look at me, just watch the stuff that I do. And I said like I'll do stuff I don't normally do. Like so like one of them was like I just like scratch my nose all the time, just to try and convey like I'm not fucking like this isn't me saying this.
Yeah.
So every time I did propaganda with them, it was like always stuff that I knew they wanted to hear. Because like every time I did them, like the guy who like stabbed me, like he was always in the room or he was always like very close by. And then obviously when we did the interview with Mr. Phillips, he was clear. I can't remember 100% correctly. I can't remember if the guy was like stood outside the door or if he was stood in the corner of the room. But what I can remember is when that interview finished and he turned the camera off, the guy who stabbed me like asked him like like, how did it go? What did he say? And the dude just like literally translated everything I said to him, which I knew that he might possibly do because I know about his background. I was even going to do a shitbag Saturday, like opinion post on him, like back in November, which I'm glad I didn't do. So like I knew who this character was, like I'd studied about him and like knew how he interviewed people, so I knew what kind of stuff he was like after. So like, so I'm thankful that I'm thankful that I had this history of like looking into like this conflict and having the knowledge that I did to be able to like just feed them the bullshit that they wanted to hear. You know, because every time you do it, they'd always like intimidate you or gesture to you that like if like make sure you speak to the make sure you speak to the journalist, or they'll just gesture some sort of hand signal to you. But I didn't know what the hand signal meant, but I know it meant like some sort of like, we're gonna fuck you up otherwise if you don't.
Yep.
So there was always that psychological element to it, and of course the guy who stabbed me, that guy fucking scared the fuck out of me. Like every time he was around me, I would fucking shit myself. Totally submissive, obviously. Like he's a guy that at that point I wouldn't want to be around him in captivity. I'd love to fucking see him though. Like if we were in a room together, I'd love to be able to like fucking just go at it, like fucking
one day if you can just find this motherfucker. Oh God.
I've actually identified him. I've actually found him online. So there's all that, and I mean, hopefully in the future, like something happens further along down the line, like with the war crime stuff. That place I was in, it was like they did a shit ton of stuff there. So like not just me. Like, I mean, I got off quite lightly at that place. Like a lot of the other Ukrainians, like they got tortured. Like it was a very like nasty place and stuff.
Could you hear it, Aiden? Like in the rooms?
Yeah. So
in the
like,
hallways.
So in our cell, sometimes in the night they would take someone out. They'd put duct tape on them. You could hear them putting duct tape on them. As soon as you heard the duct tape, like that's when you knew something was going to happen. And you just hear someone getting the fuck beat out of them for like a couple of hours, and then they brought this like guy back in, like he got taken out at some time in the night, and he brought him back in like 7 or 8 a.m. and he was like totally fucked. And I had spoken to him, and he was a civilian, and they tried to say he was Azov, even though he wasn't. Like he'd like, I asked him and like stuff beforehand, and he said he was like a gamer, PC gamer. So like they beat the fuck out of this guy, like fucking tortured him a few times, electrocuted him. And the guy, all the guy was like accused of was that someone said that he was with Azov, which he wasn't.
Jesus. And that's just enough. God. And I think that interview you did with Graham Phillips was May timeframe. I mean, so it's just a month in?
April. I think it was April 17th, April 18th.
Okay, so it was pretty quick, pretty early in that process.
And it's funny because like everything in every interview I did, it was all bullshit. But like it was funny when he walked in, like as soon as I saw him, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, not this clown. And it was just funny because when he was speaking to me, like his whole like body language and stuff, it's like so weird. But it was just funny the way he like tried to convince to the camera, like, oh, so like Aiden, like you've asked to like see me and be interviewed by me. And I just looked at him and I was like, yeah. I just can't believe he actually kept that in. Like fucking, it's just like crazy. He would keep it in. It was like the most. It was like the worst acting, like for a yes I've ever, like when I look back at it, I've ever seen. And then fast forwarding to when I got out of that place and they sent me to a different prison. They sent me to a prison, and just before that, they basically said I'd been accused of all these like crimes. Like they said they charged me with being a mercenary, trying to seize overthrow the constitution of Donetsk, and carrying out terrorist training with the purpose of attacking like DPR. It was like bollocks, like charges, like jumped up charges. And when they said the mercenary stuff, I said to him, it's like, how am I a mercenary? Like under international law, like I'm enlisted. I've got my contract. I've got like this and that. Like there's no like in DPR there is no international law. Under DPR law, you're a mercenary, and like it's just so weird because like they try to play like we're abiding by international law, but with you we don't abide by it. It's like all cherry picking with our law stuff.
That was when you were sentenced to death in the DPR.
Yeah. So I mean, and then they sentenced me like from the very beginning. Like they said to me, "Oh, you're a mercenary. You're gonna be sentenced to death, etc." So I knew it was going to come at some point, and because the thing that made it scary was like I was like the first, like we were the first like foreigners to be captured by the separatists.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what to expect. I mean, I knew the propaganda would be a thing, etc. I just didn't expect what they would actually do with us if they would actually go through with actually killing us. And like fast forward to when we had the verdict, and then we had the verdict. They said we're being sentenced to death. At that moment, like that's when like literally all hope of like getting out, going home to see my family had gone out the window, because the way I saw it was that, okay, like this is going to be a court, this is just a show trial. Maybe they're just going to like give us life in prison, and they're just threatening to give us the death sentence to make them look like serious, and then they'll like show that they're not barbarians by giving us life in prison or something. This is like they can't give us the death sentence, because if they sentence us to death, then that means they have to carry it out because of how big the case is. And as soon as they said the death sentence, I just like my fucking stomach just sank. I was like, fuck, like how do they get out of this without actually having to do it? And I was just trying to like add stuff up. There's no way they have to do this if they say this. So it got to like a really bad low point. I even like at one point, like I was like thinking about like just trying to kill myself, because I found out that they wanted to kill us by like shooting squad or firing squad, and that scared me because I didn't want to be. I'd rather be hanged than be like shot, because there's always that instance that there might be someone that decides to shoot you just for the fun of it, like in certain places. So that scared me as well. So it was like one point I was like thinking about just slitting my wrists and just fucking going out that way instead. But I managed to talk myself out of it.
What kept you going? I mean, what led you to that?
I think it was my fiance. She was a big like motivator. Obviously, I was doing the propaganda, so I managed to start like speaking to them when I was telling them to do propaganda stuff that these guys would tell me to do. Like when the propagandist like KGB guys came, like when they first came, like the first thing they said to me was like, "Oh, you're a famous blogger," and they like started showing my like Instagram and Twitter and account, and I knew what 100% they were going for. Obviously, they didn't have access to it. They tried to get me to give them the password and like login details for it for a bit, but I eventually was able to convince them, look, I don't have access to it. Like I gave everything to my friend. Like it's all two-factor authentication. There's no way you can get into it. It's all secure. So they were a bit pissed at that. I got beating for that, but like I'm very glad. I'm very glad I decided to do that in the first place and give it to my friend Kevin.
Yeah, can I just say, Aiden, whoever that person is, did a fucking awesome job just keeping that thing going. There were times where people would reach out because obviously they'd seen that you and I had this interview, and they're like, "Hey, Ryan, you need to say some stuff about Aiden. He's in captivity." And in my mind, I'm just thinking back to all the SEER stuff I'd gone through, and I'm like, I don't want to give any of those Russians one more shred of information that they could use against Aiden. Like I was considering just taking our interview down. Would that look bad? And I just thought it was so inspiring that Kevin, whoever this guy is, the work that he did on that account to just keep it going. And like, oh man, huge shout out to whoever that guy is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was good as well because like when I'd speak to my families, in the times where I was able to get like just so when I'd speak to, I remember the first time I managed to speak to my fiance, it must have been like maybe 2 months after captivity, and it was when, because one of the things I said to her before I surrendered, I says, "Do like just get to." At the time, she was in Hungary because she had to flee our house because it was under shelling. So she fled Mykolaiv and went to Hungary. And when I called her just before I surrendered, she was in Hungary. And I literally said to her, "Look, babe, like I love you. Just get to Britain. Like get to Britain as soon as possible. Get to my family." And I remember when we went to do this propaganda stuff, like phone call stuff, like I said, like maybe let's call my mum. Like maybe she knows some information that the politicians and Foreign Office won't tell us. So that was like my way of like just trying to speak to my family.
Awesome.
So I remember the first time I spoke to her, my mum was like speaking. She's like, "Diane's here. Do you want to speak to her?" Yeah, put her on, put her on. Soon as she gets on the phone, she's like, "Aiden, don't believe any of their bullshit. Don't let them brainwash you. It's all fucking bullshit."
Awesome,
and I'm like, "Baby,
awesome.
like, shut up, baby, shut up. And like as she's saying this, like the two like KGB guys in front of me, because the phone's on loudspeaker and one of them speaks English. And I'm like, "Baby, shut up." And then like just like one of them is like looking, and he's like, they're like talking to each other, like whispering in Russian. And then I remember after the phone call, like the guy like said to me, "Oh, she seems very political." I was like, "Yeah, she's Ukrainian."
Oh man.
So there'd always be times like when I was speaking to my family, they would always end up saying something like they would start telling me something about what's going on the outside, and I would hear it the first time, but then they would start like going into detail with it, and I'd be like, I couldn't say to them like, "Don't tell me this, don't tell me this." They're listening. I would always like start trying to talk about something totally like different and just talk over what they were saying like really loud. Or I'll try to like get into an argument with them like so they couldn't understand, because when I was like speaking with my family, I'd like resort back to using my like Newark like accent, like slang. So there was sometimes like when my mum told me that they lodged an appeal with the Human Rights Court in Europe about my death sentence, and then they mentioned about Interpol being involved and stuff. And she was like trying to tell me she's got like a meeting with some people. Like, "Don't worry, like everything's okay. There's a meeting with some people." And I was like, "What do you mean some people? Just tell me, just tell me something I know." And she says like, "Oh, there's a meeting with some muskrers," which in Newark is like Newark slang for like police. I was like, "Oh, okay." And then they asked me like they asked me what muskrers is. I was like, "Oh, muskrers, it's like the Teachers Association or something, something for her work." So there was like
awesome.
a few times where slang came like of good use, because obviously they're not English speakers, they had no fucking idea. And yeah, so you always have these like occasions where I was speaking to family, where I think eventually they understand that I wasn't alone, and obviously they'd been told that I wouldn't be alone. So eventually they were able to like say stuff a bit more covertly, like in with the way they did their sentences, and like and then they did my YouTube channel. Well, not my YouTube channel, the YouTube channel. Like literally the first thing they said to me when they came to this prison I was at, like it was the same guys over and over again. They said, "Oh, like we want to offer you a choice, completely your decision." And then they said like, "We're thinking like, do you want to open a YouTube channel? It's your decision. However, if you say no, there will be repercussions." I was like, "Okay, yeah." So like just everything that like happened with like that just went along with it. Like the way they worded everything, there was always like some sort of hint that there would be like something bad happening if I said no to something.
Yeah.
Which at that point, like I didn't want to find out.
God dang.
I mean, what do they teach you in SEER training?
So I've been writing down stuff you've been saying because it's exactly how we're trained. So it's really interesting that you came, it's not like it's a science, and there's some common sense to it, but you did all of it, man. And the thing that's so surprising to me, the thing that we're taught is to return with dignity. That's like the phrase you hear all the time, because you're just going to be put into situations, as you were saying, Aiden, like nobody thinks they're going to surrender until you have to make that decision. And you think you're just going to withstand torture until you're getting your ass beaten in. Like you're going to
I mean,
give in at some point.
the other thing as well with it as well, I keep saying all these words like multiple times. The other thing as well is the fact like people like when they view this, they'll be like thinking like I wouldn't do that, like where they've seen the knowledge or where they've had their experience from, like I don't know, maybe I mean I can't compare Afghanistan like POW like
No.
era sort of stuff. I mean, when was the last like was it Desert Storm?
Yeah, I mean, there's one that in America people really remember, which was during Black Hawk Down when Michael Durant was shot down and dragged through the pilot from 160th,
Yeah.
and he's all beaten up. And it's not as long as you were in captivity, but it was pretty rough. And he's like using a lot of these techniques. But you're right; it's been a while since we've had this.
Yeah, so like, there's always like people that will like look at this and they'll be like, oh, like why would you say this and that? And like everyone that like normally says stuff like that, like they're going by like recent like hit. There is no like recent history. They're like Black Hawk Down. That was like probably the last
93
sort of like like the last sort of POW era sort of stuff, and then Desert Storm, and then obviously with this conflict, it's a conventional conflict. However, our situation, like as the foreigners, like our situation is a hell of a lot different to the Ukrainian that I've been captured with. I mean, fair enough, the Ukrainian guy is going to get fucked up, but like me being being a British guy in Ukraine in the conflict, a totally different situation and ball game. So like I knew I had to do something to like just basically survive, and I knew whatever information that I would have tried to hold back, like I mean, there was like when we got captured, it was me, Sean, and eventually, I think like 2 weeks later, it was the Croatian guy, and also Ibrahim. Like there's so much information about like me and Sean out there already on the internet. There's documentaries out there, like all this information can easily be found. And so what if we try to withhold any information about each other or anything, like I mean, the way I saw it, I had to try and tell them the truth as conveniently possible. Like if like for example, I would just tell them stuff that they could get from Google. Stuff I could hide, like that wasn't fine, like stuff that wasn't on like the internet or like people in the battalion didn't know about. Like I wouldn't mention it, but like if there was stuff like that they could just get from the internet like easily, I'll just tell them it like bit by bit, because then I knew at least compared to if I decided to like try and hide stuff, and then they'll just come in and be like, oh, look what we found on Google, like we found this, like why did you lie to us, and then just beat the fuck out of you. And then you'd also risk being like beaten to death, because by that point I'd been fucking beaten around the head like quite a lot. I'd been stabbed. Like, I didn't know what their plans were to do with me.
And I guess that's the thing that I'm so impressed by. Your mentality, your spirit right now could be completely different. And so this whole idea that they teach us, this returning with dignity, like you got it. It looks like, at least from the outside. I mean, I can't even imagine how tough it was, but you just like, you're able to laugh about parts of it. You have good perspective. I am fairly certain you probably kept multiple other people alive because of it, because of the way you handled that information, kept people thinking, like you say, one guy from killing himself. It's just, I'm so impressed with what you did, Aiden.
I mean, I really wish things could have been different. Like there was some things I wish I mean, there was some things that I didn't want to say, but I knew if I didn't say it, they could just go on Google and find it. So there's like things like that I really regret. I mean, obviously, I regret it if it makes sense, but at the same time, it was something that they could easily get from the internet. So it was like stuff like that, stuff like having to say stuff I didn't want to say. And it was like I said, like the battalion, there was no headquarters to protect, like that ceased to exist. Like the whole battalion, like I think it was in total like nearly 1,000 people that surrendered with us or got captured in that like time vicinity. And then it's like I've seen like some of the comments, like when I look on like YouTube or some of the stuff, like people are, oh, how could you surrender? You got no,
oh my God,
pride, like a coward, pussy, etc. And it always pisses me off, because I was like, yeah, like wait till you get to that situation.
Yeah, Yeah, have fun in your mom's basement, wherever you're at, playing your video games. Like, this is the real world. The other thing,
Yeah,
Aiden, that's come into mind as we talk about this, you're, as odd as this is, you're kind of like the first POW of this era, of like the technology era, right? When
yeah,
in Vietnam, you could give your name, rank, and social security number, and that's it, because they're not going to find anything on you. Nothing. Like, I remember when John McCain was captured, that was a big deal because his father was an admiral. So there was
yeah,
more information available about him, but not like today, where your online profile is everything. So
yeah. I mean,
I have to imagine they're going to learn how to do things now because of what you did.
yeah, and I know when I decided to make this like Instagram account, Cossack Gundy, I knew 100% if I was ever captured, which at that time I didn't. I mean, I knew there was a big possibility that the war could kick off at any time. But like, the only reason I like made the Cossack Gundy account was just to basically like get rid of these like this misinformation about like Ukraine and stuff like that, and trying to be like a Western like outreach for like the Ukrainian military, and to try and teach people about what's true and what's not true. So I knew 100% that with that like responsibility, even though no one gave me that responsibility, I chose to do it, and like because of it, like quite a lot of people became informed about the conflict. Um, and also, as a downside to that, there was a shit ton of information about me and my
Yeah.
political beliefs and stuff like that. So it was again like that. It was like going back to the technology era. Like there's like it would like our experience, especially like me, Sean, and whatnot. Like it would definitely be like looked at in studies and stuff
Yes.
like related to like the military, like POW stuff.
Everything. So when you get back, and I won't keep you much longer here. I could talk to you for days, but I know you have a life and things you're doing. So, and I want to get into
Yeah,
that. So when you came back after being in captivity for, what are we talking? So April to September,
yeah.
5 months and 10 days, something like that. What's some of the first things that you wanted to do when you had your freedom again?
Um, I remember when I was in prison, I kept like I was eventually we got put I got put into a cell with my Croatian friend from the battalion. They put us into protective custody after the British guy died, like back in August or something. They were in a different prison to me, so in my prison it was just me and this Croatian guy, but I didn't know he was in the prison at the time. So when that happened, they put me into a separate cell, and then they brought the Croatian guy in. So I spent like 2 months with him, and we were just alone together. And I remember we'd always like be talking about like what we're gonna do. I just because even though I'd been sentenced to death, like I was at a really like big low point, like mentally. Like I mentioned, I was like I reasoned myself and like not to kill myself and stuff. Um, and then at one point we had like a razor from like some shaver. I found it in the cell and I like put it on the side because we could use it to cut stuff up. And I kept looking at it every once in a while, like because we hid it on the window bars, and I kept looking at it. And then one day I just like decided just to like throw it into the window where we couldn't reach it, so it wouldn't give me, or I wouldn't get to any stage where I'd like think about doing it. But during this period where I was in the cell with my friend, like we'd talk about what we're going to do, all this stuff, and then what we're going to eat. I said I was going to do all sorts of stuff when I'd get out. I'm going to like go eat, go do all this sort of stuff, get into the gym, do this and that. Once they got out, I did nothing of it. I've been sat in my house. I'm not sure if it's just the fact that I'm just waiting to get my passport to go back, or if it's just more now I've come out. Like I like like for the past like 4 or 5 years, like well actually the past 7, I think it's 7 years. Yeah, the past 7 years, like I was in Syria and then I was in Ukraine, and obviously when we were exchanged, we were sent from Saudi Arabia to Britain. So I've not lived at home for like quite a long time properly, and I've come back and I'm living in my old bedroom, which is being converted now because my fiance, she's here, and like, you know, like like my life isn't here. My life is like in Ukraine. So like since I've been back, I've not really been doing as much. I've been eating. I put like 10, maybe 10 kilograms back on. Um, I haven't really gone out anywhere. I've just spent most of the time just relaxing and just being lazy as fuck.
Yeah. There wasn't like you wanted to go eat one thing in particular that you had missed.
There was. Yeah, I had a few. I had like I wanted to eat fish and chips. I can't remember. I had some like all sorts of like wacky like stuff I wanted to eat and whatnot. But when I got out, like I wasn't interested at all like in eating anything. I mean, when we were on the flight from Russia to Saudi Arabia, we were on like a diplomatic flight from the Saudis, and when we got on it, like because it's Saudi Arabian, like their plane was like incredibly luxury. Like we were put into this like sort of like the middle section. It was like it was above like first class. Like it was royalty basically. And I remember we were on there, and they've got like all the royal guard and stuff who are taking care of us, and the plane's taking off. And as the plane's taking off, like I can smell cigarettes. I was like I turned to Sean, and I said to him, "Dude, like, can you smell that? Someone's smoking a cigarette." And I was like, "Yeah." And then we like asked the bodyguard, "Is like, hey, like, can we smoke?" And he's, "Oh, you want a cigarette?" And just gave us a cigarette. And then once we got in the air, like they came back and it was like, "Hey guys, like you're safe now. Once we clear Russian airspace, we'll let you guys know, etc. However, if any of you guys like want anything, just let us know and we'll give you it. Like we've got an onboard chef. Like they will make it." And like as soon as he said chef, I was like, "Dude, like this is a Saudi jet. Like this has got to be like some sort of like royal like kitchen on board." So
what'd you
so we're
get? Did you
asking.
order something?
Yeah, so I saw they started bringing out like these. It wasn't sushi. It was you know, those like really fancy like little sandwich things on
Yeah.
bread, and like they
Yeah.
brought that out on a tray, and I was like, "Whoa, dude! Like, what is this?" And it's like we started just eating, and the guy went by once, and no one started taking anything. So I just like I just like got his attention. I just started like fucking demolishing everything on the plate. And then they brought us some like Coke and stuff. Like we were going crazy on everything. And I remember I saw one of them bring a shawarma like to one of the other guys, and I was like, "Dude, what is that?" He said, "Oh, it's a shawarma." And then I said, "Dude, can I have two shawarmas?" So we're like going crazy like on this like flight, just like eating like whatever we want. And then once we got back to like Britain, um, I got back to the house, and I wasn't really craving like I like the only takeaway I've had since I've been back is I had a fish and chips. I had that once, but that was like after a week or 2 weeks after I've been back. So I've not been having like any major cravings. It's been more like just making lunch and like dinner like stuff that like I don't know why, but I've like really missed it.
Yeah. Oh man. And so you've nearly died many times before this. I can't, like one of the very few people who's lived through this type of ordeal in captivity, had a lot of time to think. Is there anything you think you're going to do differently now with your life that you want to go do that, or maybe you're more interested in continuing on the path you were on before? What are you going to do next?
Don't get captured again.
Yeah. Step one.
Yeah, so obviously I've served like 4 years in the military, well, in Ukraine. So my service came to an end on the 4th of October. Because if you remember last year, I told you I signed a year extension to my contract, which in hindsight actually turned out to work pretty nicely. I ended up like signing a contract and didn't have to do anything apart from get beat and just being solitary, and got paid for it.
Yeah.
So now the plan is basically to do what I wanted to try and do before, move into journalism. So obviously I've set up a new channel and stuff, and like it's like called Conflict Dispatch. And basically, the idea behind it is like me and like two of my friends. You interviewed Tacticurd before Threat. He's going to be coming to Ukraine this time. I'm planning to go out in November time. I'm just waiting on my passport to arrive. And so basically, we're going to go back out and get into this journalism aspect and try to. I mean, a lot of it's largely inspired by Vice News's dispatches from early on. Obviously, they stopped doing that, and it's going to be loosely inspired by that, and also some other journalist bodies and stuff. And with my experience and like background like in the military there, and also the contacts I have, I think it's going to be a lot easier for me to get around there and get access to the stuff that like the average journalist can't get access to.
Yeah.
So the plan is to get out there and try to get something out weekly, and like go do interviews with people that like aren't getting interviewed, or go cover stuff that's like not getting as much attention as it should do. And one of the other big things I want to do as well is try to do stuff to help those that are still in like captivity, like because like myself, like me, Sean, Ibrahim, and the creation, like in total, like from a battalion, there's maybe like 20 people in total that have been released from our battalion. Like everyone else is still in captivity. So I want to do a lot. Huh?
Keep going. Sorry. Aiden.
So there's still like I want to do like try to get involved in doing some more advocacy for like trying to secure the release of like those that are in captivity so they can return home.
Is there a place people can go to donate to Conflict Dispatch or what you're working on?
Yeah, so I've set up a Go Get Funding. So that's on the it should be on the YouTube channel description. If I remember, I put it there, or it'll be in the video description of the video.
We'll make sure we have a link so people can find it.
Yeah, of course.
That's great that you're doing it, man. So if people, whoever's listening, this is a good cause. It's worth it. So this is great.
Yeah.
Damn. All right, Aiden. Man, when we signed on this first time before we hit record, just for people who couldn't see it, I was smiling ear to ear. I couldn't, imagine seeing you again. I'm so happy that you're back. And not that it matters at all, but I'm just super proud of you, like the mentality and spirit you have after going through that. And I love that you're going to go and just keep showing what's actually going on there. So
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Best of luck, man.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that combat story. This was a really special one, having Aiden on, just knowing he's still alive, let alone getting ready to move back to Ukraine and expose what ridiculous activities the Russians are up to next. With that, a couple listener comments here. So our first one is a YouTube comment on the Dutch Moyer interview, and it's from Giraffosaurus. It says, "Bro, this is amazing. Your guests, the questions you asked, this man deserves way more subscribers. Thanks, boys. Love this." It's great to hear. We need more of that support. So keep it coming. We'll keep making these. And the next one was from an Apple 5-star review from Dunbar Prisoner. He says, this is on the Tonto interview, and he goes, "Ryan, I've really enjoyed all the episodes on your show that I've heard. Especially enjoyed your interview with Tonto. Such a great person and inspiring warrior. I had to laugh and maybe shed a tear myself when he talked about Roan saying none of them had to go in for that movie 13 hours. As a grizzled old vet myself, I was ready to grab my kit and weapons and do some damage as well. Keep up the great interviews with even greater warriors. I'll keep listening." That's Steve B. 12 Bravo Sapper. And I love the comment. I felt the same way. Definitely chokes me up thinking and hearing about it. And I love that it still does for Tonto years later. Just to give an idea of who he is, and he'd go right back in there. So thanks a lot for listening, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this one today. It was special for me, for sure. I'm sure it is for y'all. Having heard Aiden before, guy deserves so much more. So thank y'all. Stay safe.